0.6. So, Radicic here still in trouble. The crew down at the back end of the car, perhaps transmission problems. So Robert Hanford there, still 5th grid position, but will be 4th car among the qualifiers. Car number 14, a 49.8. Behind or beside him, Peter Williamson in car number 7, as you can see here from the second row of the grid, 50.5. The 4th row has Ian Bland in a new Medici and Peter Macro in a fairly new Cheetah, 50.6 and 50.8 respectively. The 5th row has Peter Bull, 72, and Terry Hook in a new Medici also, car number 15, a 52.7. That's the way they form up. The only other runners are 5, Pringle, and 22, Rolf Vine.
Radicic with car problems didn't complete the warm-up lap, and it's possible that he'll be pushed out to start the race at the back of the field.
If he doesn't come under starter's instructions very shortly, he will not be able to take part in the race, even if he were to fix the problem fairly soon after the start. And at this stage, he's pointed towards the grid, but still back and away near that gateway.
Almost ready for the start.
Costanzo and Smith and Williamson from further back. Hanford too routing up Medici, and well placed to go into 3rd, and he does. Medici's 4th, but trying to charge around the outside. Alfie's off.
Smith, gone.
Smith off, and so, by G, John Smith, as you see, just stayed on his wheels, and the new race leader is Medici. There's Alfie Costanzo stopped, hopeful of getting back into the race. But the new race leader will be Andrew Medici, car number 2, and here's how it all happened. Costanzo locked.
Lock up. Launches John Smith. Costanzo off as well. Medici gets through. Hanford behind him.
There goes Hanford and also Williamson.
And Smith also lucky for that crash padding there on the guardrail fencing.
And so now with Medici with a bit of a lead, the field was very tight behind him. We've had Hanford pull out of that field, so Williamson now lies second.
4.8 seconds behind Medici.
59.86 their standing lap.
Hanford's pulled to the pits for some reason of his very own.
And he was
there he is.
Actually leading the next part of the pack. Tyre trouble.
Crew obviously not prepared for it, as Andrew Medici from Port Macquarie in New South Wales rounds the back of the circuit. Medici in his first drive in Australia this year, having contested the Malaysian and Penang Grand Prix only, and having failed to finish in both of them.
Well, how unlucky can John Smith be? He's had a couple of very high speed and very nasty accidents in the RT4. Ralph can ill afford it, and through absolutely no fault of his own, he's out of this race by the first corner. That's a 47.36. No, sorry, let me take that back, because I didn't get Medici exactly across the finishing line on the previous lap. But fairly untroubled at this stage from 3rd grid position, a qualifying time of 49 seconds. This is Peter Williamson, a bit ragged and wide out of the carousel. Car 7, he crashed in this area on Friday in private practice. Peter Macro's bringing up 3rd place. That's the bright green coloured car that you can just see behind Williamson. There he is.
Hanford has rejoined the pack, got a lap in arrears.
And Ian Bland is 4th in the new Medici, the white car number 8. That's Peter Macro, Victorian, who's one of the prominent people in the designing and building of cheetah cars, one of which he's driving. Radicic's crew still working on their car in a similar area to where Hanford has pulled up. But Peter Williamson, who I don't think would have dreamt that by the 4th lap of this race he'd be placed where he is at the moment.
And the real interest in the race is that Alfie Costanzo is back in the event. He's in 8th position on the same lap as the leaders, 22.65 seconds behind the leader Andrew Medici, and Alf is driving furiously. There he is.
He was in absolutely sparkling form yesterday, Costanzo, credited with a 48, but his crew said he didn't do better than a 48.5, and Alfie endorsed that. But nevertheless, a handy 3/10 under the lap record. A decisive victory by him in the first round in Adelaide.
John Smith about to rejoin the field as well. He's been to the pits, he's had work done on the car, and now he slams back out onto the circuit. We're on lap 4, so Smith is 4 laps behind the leaders.
And Peter McCrow senses the chance to have a crack at Peter Williamson in second place. And in fact, this has got a lot of potential to be very interesting. McCrow, I think, knows what pressure can do to Peter Williamson. He can be a bit ragged in a single-seater. And McCrow wants to put pressure on him. He's looking for second, and with a chance, certainly with Costanzo, that there could be a good argument within 10 or a dozen laps' time over second place. Williamson has been spending a lot of time in America recently. He's bought a house there. It sits at the foothills of a large mountain, very tall mountain, taller than Kosciuszko, where Williamson does a lot of skiing.
Costanzo moves up to 6th place, displacing Derek Pringle in the Alpine Formula 2 car, but moves 23.99 seconds behind the leader Medici, who's taking the opportunity to open as much space as he can on the well-prepared and well-presented Alfredo Costanzo Peter Jackson Tiga.
Times between Williamson in practices and McCrow. Williamson a 50.1, Peter McCrow a 50.8. That's a fair margin, 7/10 of a second. But Williamson has in his mind that further on here, just a little bit further down the track, through that fast back section under the Dunlop Bridge, he had a mammoth lose on Friday, wiped off the front end of the car and some of the suspension as we look at Medici, the race leader. While he was in 5th gear, he said, I'd have been doing something around 200, 210 kilometres an hour. He said it was very frightening.
Medici is 8.2 seconds in front of Peter Williamson and 23.82 seconds in front of Alfredo Costanzo.
And the next one he's aiming for is Ian Bland. Come forward a place.
Oh, is that John Smith getting very wide there to get out of Medici's way? Yes, it was, and Smith pits his motor car. Sad day for John Smith.
A 1981 model RT4 Ralph, but updated to 82.5 specifications. The main difference being that where John Smith's car, you can see the inclined springs going into the centre or near the centre of the rear wheels at the back. That was the same design as Andrew Medici's car originally. Medici now has the vertically mounted springs inboard working through a rocker. He says it's better on fast sweepers. He's also widened the rear track by some 10 centimetres. He said it tends to push a bit. It's got so much traction at the rear that the front tends to understeer a bit in slow corners. Not too good up the top of the circuit there on the slow one, nor at the carousel.
And John Smith's put the Rolt RT4 away, and it's a sad day for John Smith, who so desperately wanted to win the Australian Open Wheeler Championship this year.
Behind Medici, the battle for second place between Williamson trying to hold out Peter McCrow is really building up.
Costanzo is gaining on that second place scrap, but is not making any impression on this man, Andrew Medici, who's maintaining a pace equally as fast as Costanzo, who's now back in 5th position.
Andrew Medici from Port Macquarie, where he sells up, there's the battle for second and third, where he sells about half the cars in the town, I suspect, and where ABC TV will be in that area next weekend, Kempsey, to bring you the following weekend 1 hour of highlights of the Maclay 1000 off-road race, which will be featuring Andrew Cowan, the 2 times winner of London to Sydney Marathons, 6-time winner of the Southern Cross Rally. But this is the battle for second and third as they complete 10 laps out on their 11 in a 35-lap race, 84.35 kilometres around Lakeside. Lap distance 2.41 kilometres. As you can see there, second place Williamson barely in front of Peter McCrow in the Mark 8 Cheetah.
And Costanzo is only 10.5 seconds behind these two.
And still looking at getting past Bland. His next target, Costanzo, to come forward a place. Williamson doing pretty well. But as you can see, not getting away from McCrow, and that would be annoying him. And he can be a bit rough and ragged in a single-seater. He gets unstuck a little bit better now than he was a year or so ago, but he nevertheless does come unstuck a bit too frequently because he's just a bit hard and a bit rough on the car occasionally, and that unsettles a single-seater.
Costanzo passes Ian Bland, moves up into 4th position. Clear track in front of him until he reaches this dice between McCrow and Williamson.
And Alfie Costanzo is 8.15 seconds in arrears to this pair, or specifically to Williamson. Another 5 seconds forward from this pair to the race leader, Medici.
McCrow bottoming his his gearbox on the bumpy Lakeside circuit. There goes Costanzo.
Let me correct that, it's 13.55 seconds first to second. Look at the sense of urgency about the 3 times Australian champion driver and the defending champion. He's one of the last 3 years in succession.
Costanzo had a lot of difficulty on this track on Friday. He just couldn't get his suspension setting right. Reckoned that the track was very rough and was actually contributing to the car breaking up. Even this morning in practice, the car again cracked a carburetor component in the float bowl from the vibration set up by the car, the very hard suspension and the very rough track around the back section here especially.
1,200 pounds per inch. The spring rate on the front springs on that car, they'd be stiffer in the rear, so you need a 1,200 pound pressure to press those springs 1 inch, and that's when they've got the car weight on them anyway. It's very stiffly set up indeed, an entirely different type of front suspension.
Through Williamson. McCrow is through Williamson, and Williamson is backing right off. Costanzo's coming up to get him. That's Williamson in the red car.
Costanzo in the white. A new Tiga suspension and monocoque tub already in the Alan Hamilton Porsche Cars Australia workshop, and will debut at Sandown with a pull rod front suspension rather like current Formula 1 cars. Williamson, he did a good job there for quite a long while, but lap 15th lap, sorry, it all became too much for him. Slipped back now to 3rd and shortly to 4th. Costanzo, McCrow going out of picture on the right. Costanzo was fastest lap in Adelaide, a 50.4 to a 50.7 by Cesario, a 50.8 by Smith. Lucio Cesario not here today, not able to afford the costs of getting from Victoria to Brisbane. What a good recovery by Alfredo Costanzo. The pride of the Italian community in Melbourne and a much-loved member of the Australian motor racing set. He's been a most affable, capable and dedicated member of that group for a long, long time. It's only really in recent times that he's had much help and been able to do it as nicely as he now does.
And he's not getting much help at the moment from Williamson, that's for sure, because Peter is making it terribly difficult for Alfie to get through. And the telltale touch of blue smoke again from the rear right-hand side of Alfie's car leads me to believe that in the crash with John Smith, he might have done something to the track of the motor car wheel. Maybe knocked the rear end geometry slightly out of whack. Williamson moves over, whether it's to let Costanzo through or not, academic at this stage, because Costanzo takes the gap.
As Andrew Medici is now 20 seconds in front of him. So the possibility of Costanzo reining in Medici, unless he can find a bit more pace, are really not on. But let's see, and he certainly, as you can see, has not given up. He's driving like a dervish.
We've reached half distance in the event.
And at that stage, the race order then is Andrew Medici, Bralt RT4 number 2 from car number
Peter McCrow.
25, Peter McCrow in the Cheetah Mark 8, second place. Alfredo Costanzo, third. Tiga, number 1, and fourth place, Peter Williamson in the Tolman, number 7. Fifth place is Robert Hanford, Bralt RT4, number 14, and sixth is Ian Bland, Medici, number 8.
That smoke's actually coming from his engine. And now he can see McCrow right in front of him. Derek Pringle in the little Formula 2 car also there. That's the white car on the outside of the track.
Perhaps he's just got his car smoking contained with his new sponsor.
Now, it's McCrow and Costanzo.
The gap is about 0.4 of a second, if you can click the watch fast enough. And now, almost nothing. Off the hill and set sail, gassing it down there, where Alfie is quick. Exited very quickly, but in fact had to tuck in and sit behind McCrow and goes for him round the kink, and so easily. I'd say that's a car that, where the suspension in fact isn't damaged at all, it looks to be working very well, and Alf certainly has no reservations about its handling.
15 laps to go, 19.13 seconds the gap. Andrew Medici back to Alfredo Costanzo. Costanzo leads the Australian Gold Star Series after one round with 9 points. Medici, with his car on the water back from Malaysia, didn't contest the first round in Adelaide, got his car off the boat only on Wednesday, and is here for the first time, making up his mind, in fact, whether he wants to contest the rest of the rounds this year, and 9 points today will be a very definite persuader.
Car number 8, the Medici, from 6th place, is called into the pits, so that moves car number 15 up to 6th. That's Terry Hook in another Medici.
There's Andrew Medici, race leader, through the kink. 5th gear.
22nd lap.
Medici, who normally prepares and presents his car so perfectly, with a car that is really showing the ravages of its Southeast Asian series earlier this year. Pretty poor condition, in fact. But Medici really driving it well and as hard as he needs to hold on to first place in this race. Has a deal going, in fact, with the English producer, Dart, a group of ex-Williams mechanics led by Alan Burrows, and it's possible that Medici will bring out one of the Dart Formula Pacific cars for the Australian Grand Prix later this year, not to drive it himself, but to put the brilliant New Zealand driver Mike Thackful in the motor car.
18.4 seconds the gap first to second. This man back to Costanzo in the Tiga number 1, and the gap between Williamson in car 7 and Hanford was closing, but Hanford has pitted. In fact, he's pulled off the track, Robert Hanford, so that's bad luck for him. He was in 5th place, car 14 out. So he might have been able to catch Peter Williamson. But the question mark is whether, over the next 11 laps, Alf Costanzo can pull in some 18 seconds. Mathematically and logically, you say no, but he hasn't given up. To pull in something approaching a second and a half a lap on a driver of Medici's pace and experience is really not on. But as I say, Alfie Costanzo is a racer and is giving it his very best.
To be honest, mathematically, there are 4 rounds of the Australian Gold Star Championship remaining this year. At Oran Park on August 21st, where ABC television will be again. Sandown on September 11, where we'll be once more for the Castrol 400. Then at Winton on October 16, and finally at Calder on November 13. So even if Alfredo Costanzo was to take 2nd place today, he'd pull 15 points and retain his lead in the Australian Gold Star Championship.
The gap 17 seconds now, first to second. And the distance 10.5 laps, 24 kilometres.
Medici leaves the straight, goes through the carousel. Alf Costanzo slingshots himself onto the straight and through the kink. That's about the gap between them.
And only 0.2 of a second picked up that lap by Costanzo on Medici, so not looking good.
Coming up now to lap Peter Williamson is Andrew Medici, so he will have lapped all but the top 3 cars in the event.
One of which is himself, so that the only ones he hasn't in fact lapped are both 3rd placed Macro and 2nd placed Alfredo Costanzo. There. Down, sweeping down through this fast right-hander, Castrol corner. And there's the situation with 10 remaining. And Costanzo still chasing.
Medici laps Peter Williamson and down the main straight. There he goes. A flash of red from Williamson's Tolman Toyota behind him.
15.5 that lap, so Costanzo dropping or picking up only 0.2 of a second the previous lap. Fairly well made up for it by 1.3 seconds that lap. It's still an outside and a rough chance. Certainly hauling in Medici. But not enough laps, really, which to do it. But then there's always a compression when they get within about 4 laps, when the driver trailing can see the other driver and starts really to pull his times down. if I were a bookmaker, I wouldn't be calling either a favourite at this stage.
Pringle moves gently out of the way because he's happily in the points. 6th place in the Gold Star Championship at this stage, which gives him 1 point on the board, and he won't be unhappy about that in the Formula 2 car.
Gold Star points score, some people will be pleased to know, is done in the more common way of 9-6-4-3-2-1, which means that at the moment Costanzo has 9, Smith second in Adelaide 6, Radicic third there, 4, Cesario 3 for 4th, and Peter Williamson 2 for 5th. Costanzo therefore looking to go into the lead in the championship, at the moment sitting on 9 plus 6 here, 15. From Smith none, Radicic none, Cesario none, Williamson back in 4th place on 3 would come up to 5, and on to 9 would go Andrew Medici, providing he wins. If Alfie Costanzo wins another Gold Star Championship this year, making it 4 on the trot, he'll equal the record of Bibb Stillwell having done that, 1962 to 65 in succession. Championship started in 1957, won by Lex Davison that year, and then by Stan Jones, Alan Jones' father, in 58.
Well, I must say how pleased we all were to see Alec Mildren, the winner of the championship in 1960, here at the circuit today. He's now retired to the Gold Coast, and it's his first motor race meeting in 12 years. In fact, I asked him what he thought of the new cars. He said they haven't changed all that much, really. Suspension's about the same.
Alec Mildren, the man who brought Kevin Bartlett really a long way forward in his career.
Didn't do much to harm Frank Gardner's career either when you come right down to it. 4 laps remaining.
31 completed by Medici. That's the situation after 30 laps. Costanzo, 3rd McCrow, 4th a lap down Peter Williamson, 5th Terry Hook in car 15, and 6th is Pringle in car 5.
.89 seconds now, the gap. Andrew Medici in car 2. The Port Macquarie sponsored motor car from Alfredo Costanzo. Car 1 sponsored by Peter Jackson.
Remaining now. That's nearly 4 seconds a lap, and obviously not on. Williamson getting into the sights now of Costanzo, as you can see. That's Alfie there. He's got a little bit of ground still to make, about a second. Coming up to lap Pringle. Pringle in 6th place.
Terry Hook dealt with by Andrew Medici. Hook with his car up for sale. That's one of the new Kadichas from Queensland. Hook's actually moving into the Australian Sports Car Championships next year, and one of the works Lolas from England. 2 laps remaining for car 2. Costanzo onto the tail of Williamson down the main straight.
14.56 seconds in arrears.
Lap car waves Medici through.
Andrew Medici has been involved in a fair few of the contretemps in Formula Pacific in recent times, but by dint of sheer circumstance, no particular planning, well clear of that melee on lap 1, and that really gave him the race on a plate, and he capitalised on it very nicely. Went to a nice lead, which is will come at the end of this lap to about 14 point something seconds. Will take him up to second place after 2 rounds in the Australian Gold Star Drivers' Championship, behind Costanzo, assuming he comes home in second on 15 points. Andrew Medici will be on 9.
Third place will be Peter McCrow, which happily is the highest ever finish for the Cheetah Mark 8 in Australian Formula 1 motor racing.
1 corner remaining for Andrew Medici. Scythes out of there.
Checkered flag. And the man they sometimes call Mad Andy makes a wonderful return to Australian Formula 1 motor racing by winning the second round of the Australian Gold Star Championship at Lakeside from the defending champion Alfredo Costanzo, car 1. And a long, long way back to third place McCrow and